the coronavirus pandemic continues to wreak havoc in all sectors, the Transport Department has been at loggerheads with the taxi industry regarding the impact of COVID-19 regulations on their business. At least one transport analyst believes municipal budgets could be the link to giving people reliable transport services. We speak now to Ofentse Mokwena, and he's a transport economist. Thank you very much for joining us. Perhaps let's start here. Does the country have appropriate public transport facility budgets?
Well, I think I think what the prime question is whether these budgets have a place to go, because in order to have a budget, someone has to ask for it, and the people who ask for it have to be responsible enough to execute on them. So without transport functions in municipalities, especially across the board, it becomes very difficult for transport facilities to be budgeted for. And what we have right now are integrated transport plans that are made for municipalities, and they're based on the provincial land transport frameworks. But the challenge with these integrated transport plans is that while they do assess the state of the public transport facilities, what they should be doing is informing the scale of the budget that would be allocated to these facilities. Right now, we've just allocated just over R1 billion for sanitization purposes, but the challenge actually is that we're missing an opportunity to develop these interchanges, taxi ranks, and bus terminals.
And that would beg the question whether we have a database of transport facilities and the conditions therein.
Well, not centrally. There is no evidence that we have a central database. But what municipalities do have are these registers or transport registers that indicate the state of the transport facility. So does it have a latrine? Does the facility have some type of shelter? But that is one side of the conversation. The other side of the conversation is that these are real estate development. These are places where shops and activities are attracted to. And the challenge is that you might find that many municipalities are missing the opportunity to bring in additional revenue from such developments.
Is this not then a time to reform the monitoring and evaluation efforts that have been made?
Well, it's also perhaps a time to ask whether we know what to look for. Because it's one thing to have the monitoring and evaluation activities taking place, which has been the status quo. But the question really is, are we looking at the right indicators? Are we looking at the right people? Are we looking at the right entities? So are associations involved? Are ward councillors involved? And are they involved in the average? So what we have is these integrated development plans. They aggregate what the wards are looking for. But do we have something that disaggregates it, puts it at a local level, and translates it into something that your neighbor can see happening on a day-to-day basis?
When we look at road safety, we saw 40% of fatalities being pedestrians last year. Is there a budget for road safety education in this country?
Well, what's interesting is that we have a road safety strategy which practically aims to reduce not just road fatalities, but actually reduce incidents and accidents. Where someone drives into a wall, accident would be when two vehicles or a person and a vehicle are in a collision. So the interesting bit is that our strategy has been around for quite some time, and municipalities, provinces are expected to translate the strategy for implementation. Now, what is not clear is how this is going to be funded. It seems to be embedded or hidden in all the other allocations and activities that municipalities perform. Of course, safety is everywhere, but there are some specialized activities that need to be executed that might need their individual budget. And what makes it more difficult is that it's interdisciplinary in nature. It's traffic, it's law enforcement, it's education, and it's campaigns, and it is the transport and community safety departments that have to interact in order to make it happen. That's what makes it very, very challenging. So the budget explicitly is not there, but it is latent, or at least it appears to be latent. And that makes it challenging for implementation to take place directly.
What are we seeing where scholar transport is concerned?
Well, scholar transport is an interesting space, not only because we have operators that have not been basically receiving anything, largely because schools are closed or schools were closed, but we also have operators that are contracted to provide specific transport services. The big challenge here is how are these operators or how are these markets truly regulated? And to what extent is this regulation associated with the provincial or national transport strategy? And if that can be translated at a budgetary level. Currently, Equal Education and other campaigns or pressure groups have been asking for a budget that directly interacts with scholar transport provision. And it's a difficult process, it's a difficult decision, it's a difficult model to develop, but it is quite important because there are some rural areas, there are some urban areas that require efficient and effective scholar mobility. And this is quite a complex exercise to do because you have the buses, so the traditional buses that we have, and we have the taxi associations that who have scholar transport operations as well. That's what makes it such an interesting opportunity for us to enable access to education now and into the future.
Transport analyst Ofentse Mokwena, thank you very much for your time.